We're going to begin with that desperate search for any possible survivors in the Surfside condo collapse.
County officials say 152 people are still unaccounted for. And as rescue workers enter their 5th day of searching through the mountain of rubble, a makeshift memorial is growing near the site. Police have identified 8 of the 9 confirmed victims so far. Their ages range from 26 to 83 years old. Dozens of families visited the site on Sunday to see the search firsthand, waiting for any news about their loved ones. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us now from the scene in Surfside, Florida. So first of all, Jay, what more can you tell us about those victims who've been identified?
Yeah, it's just so tragic, Joe. Savannah, good to talk to you. And those victims, their families obviously grieving at this point, but wanting to share a bit more about them. And we know that one of the first victims identified, Stacy Feng, was actually pulled from the wreckage early and alive with her son. They were taken to the hospital. She unfortunately passed away there. Her son still recovering, a 15-year-old junior high student, a baseball player in the area, and a lot of people surrounding him and trying to take care of him as he continues to recover. Then you've got the Lozano couple, and they'd been married for more than 50 years. One of the most tragic things about their passing is that their son lives in a tower just directly across from where they were when they perished. He went out that morning, looked out, and screamed to his wife, "My parents' apartment is gone. The building is gone," and rushed down to the scene. We're beginning to learn a little bit more as this process continues about those who have been identified. Of course, there are so many who haven't been found, haven't been identified, and there are families struggling with that unknown as well, Joe and Savannah.
So, Jay, what is the feeling in that community right now, especially for people who live in the area and near those towers?
Joe, it's still shock, to be real frank, heartache and horror over what's happened here. And like many of us, they just can't get their heads around exactly what's happened. That's going to take some time as this process continues. We're able to talk to a few, and they share those emotions.
You knew someone who lived in the building?
Yeah, she's still missing. We don't know what happened. And at this point, I don't think that they're going to find her alive. What you see on the news.
Well, you take your time.
What you see on the news, it won't really show what is happening now, what we're living here. You see the families of the victims crying in front of your building.
Yeah, and look, you can hear it in the voices here. The investigation continuing and really focused on the bottom of this building, Joe and Savannah, a possible structural failure in or below the underground parking garage. That's where the engineers, the experts are looking right now.
It's tough to watch, Jay. We know those families are just holding on to hope as much as humanly possible. We know that officials have issued a voluntary evacuation for the other buildings in the complex. Are people choosing to heed that warning and leave, or are they staying?
Joe, a mixed bag. There are people who have decided to move out at least for a few weeks and really assess what's going on here. But we talked to others who say they feel safe. There haven't been any problems. Of course, engineers are looking at all of the towers in this area right now.
All right. Jay Gray reporting in Surfside. Jay, thanks so much for your reporting this morning. Appreciate it.
Miami-Dade Commissioner Sally Hayman joins us now. Commissioner, good morning. Thank you for being here. So talk to us about some of the ongoing challenges workers are facing. I mean, we can see what that site looks like in that video we were just playing there in our last segment. We've heard about these fires. Tell us about what's going on there on the ground.
Well, unfortunately, they're now this morning facing a thunderstorm once again. The elements out there have been incredible, but so too have been the men and women of just about every emergency rescue group available, and from local to state to international, the work effort has been exceptional. We have seen a continuance of move forward, stay focused on research efforts to go to certain areas, search it out, go and proceed where they could best have the chance of a successful recovery of live people. What is exceptional is the elements they're working with, but they're being meticulous, respectful, and the area has been secured. The building, since yesterday, has been marked by floors and coded after, again, another additional search on what is an unstable building. I want to tell everybody that this is isolated. It is incredible to learn that there was knowledge of problems back in 2018. That has come to light. But this is isolated. These areas have professionals with a great building code. This area, like every other area in South Florida, is exposed every year for 6 months to hurricane season and saltwater proximity. And they are sound buildings that people should not be alarmed spreading out. We are taking proactive efforts to do inspections. And this is not a high rise. This was only 12 stories and 2 stories subterranean. We have some that are 30, 40, 50, 60 stories. And you know something? People need to just concentrate on what we have at hand. The best of the best in a search, rescue, and recovery effort. And I want to thank especially the community here and all across the country for stepping up with compassion and concern and prayers.
Absolutely. And Commissioner, I'll ask you a little bit more about that search in just a moment. But first, I want to follow up on something you just said, mentioning that we did learn that an engineer warned of what they called major structural damage in that building back in 2018. I think you've probably set some minds at ease there with what you just said about the area. But what would you say to Miami-Dade residents now, people in Surfside that are right near there, in high rises, like you mentioned, that are even taller than this 12-story building? I mean, what would you say to them, especially as surrounding buildings are being evacuated?
Well, that has not been a call by Miami-Dade County. That was one individual that made that suggestion. If I lived there and I had an understanding of the integrity of the building, but also its operation, and they usually have a board of condominiums or a management company, and people are comfortable with the engagement and the professionalism of it, there's no reason to leave. I live in South Florida. I go through hurricane season. Every once in a while, you may see, a settlement crack. My building is from 1955. And the reality is, I'm safe. I don't think we need to add that into a mix because someone had a suggestion of it. There's no indication that there's another issue, including from the same developers and stuff, a block away that people have subsequently come in to inspect. That is going to be done. There's been a request, or actually a mandate by the county mayor to say, get out with inspectors and take a look. Let people feel good again. I honestly believe, from everything I have heard factually by forensic people that are on site, by people who do inspections, by building people, that this is isolated.
Now, Commissioner, today marks day 5 of the search and rescue operation. Do you still have hope of finding survivors?
Yes, I think the pictures that you are showing mark the spots of engagement, but most especially, it doesn't show the whole picture. There are approximately 300 people with skills of search and rescue that are on scene. You're not seeing 2 layers of subterranean crews in the building site. And yes, there are actual pockets where cars have fit and large boulders are there. You have to remain hopeful. These men and women that are going 24/7, they're out there, they're hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I hope everybody else will be too.
And I know literally many of Yeah, and I know literally many of them are working longer than 24 hours in a stretch. Miami-Dade County Commissioner Sally Hayman, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
From coast to coast this weekend, we saw images of the country returning to normal. Parades filled streets, moviegoers packed theaters, and Broadway started to reopen.
But the pandemic is still not over. Concern is growing over the dangerous Delta variant. It's already causing some countries to bring back restrictions. Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. So, Dr. Azar, first of all, the World Health Organization is so concerned about the Delta variant. It's encouraging fully vaccinated people to wear masks. What do you make of that? Is that something that we should be doing here?
Good morning, Joe. You know, I read that over the weekend, and I've been sort of trying to, make sense of it and explain to my family what that means. And we're fully vaccinated in this household, and we just went to a Mets game on Saturday. How is this changing our behavior? What are we going to do? What I'm really looking forward to is hearing what, if any, response we're going to get from, number one, from the coronavirus task force press conference, hopefully later today, as well as from CDC to see if they have any response. You know, the language was interesting, Joe and Savannah. It was, you can't assume that you're safe if you're fully vaccinated. You should play it safe. Essentially, what I think they're saying is this. We know from the studies and some real world evidence that if you've had 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine and with extrapolation, the mRNA vaccines to Moderna, you are reasonably well protected, close to 90% against symptomatic disease, and certainly protection from severe disease and hospitalization. But the analogy that I'm using these days is, let's say you have a water balloon that has holes in it. Where is the water going to go? It's going to go to the holes. And the variant and the virus is going to go to the folks who are unvaccinated. And as long as you have pockets of unvaccinated people, as we do here in the US, and as there are many worldwide, the Delta variant is going to continue to spread. And I just think that all of us need to keep that in mind, that our protection is not 100%. So if I go into a grocery store, if I go into a crowded indoor space, I am still vulnerable. I'm not 100% protected. And I think that that's really kind of the messaging that they were trying to get across, which I think we kind of lost a little bit in our exuberance over our reopening, and guidance from CDC that basically said, if you're vaccinated, you can go ahead and live your life as you did pre-pandemic. Right. But you can't forget about that lurking virus is still out there, you guys, and we're all still technically a little bit vulnerable, just to different degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much so, in fact, that in Australia, Sydney's going back into a 2-week lockdown to control the Delta variant. Do you think the U.S. could be on a similar path, Dr. Natalie? Could we see restrictions in some places again?
So I think that that's always on the table, Savannah. But, it is a little bit like apples and oranges comparing the U.S. to Australia. Australia's vaccination rates are very, very low, number one. And number two, they have a very different approach and culture when it comes to compliance and lockdown, meaning that, their residents are much more likely to comply with, these more severe restrictions and lockdowns. They're just not that popular here in the U.S., as we all know. And really the main reason to enforce something as severe as a lockdown is to prevent that surge that could really crumble a health system. It's a 2-week lockdown. That's the incubation period. That's the rationale for it. Do I think that that could still happen in certain areas in the country? Sure. Look at Missouri, for example. If your hospital systems are at risk of being, overrun by COVID-19, we will absolutely see, I think, short-term lockdowns re-implemented here. But again, it's not popular, and I don't think it's going to be something that is necessary at a more widespread level here in the U.S., given our vaccination rates.
Dr. Azar, while we have you, a recent study found COVID survivors who lost their sense of taste and smell may not get it back for up to a year. What does that tell you about the lingering side effects of the virus?
Well, what I actually appreciated about this information, Joe, is that we actually have something a little bit more conclusive rather than so elusive. We don't know what's going to happen to these patients long term because we're literally studying it real time. So this was very encouraging. Close to 100% of folks did regain their sense of smell, and by association, you will regain your sense of taste. Usually that goes in concert. What I think is rather interesting, and I've been following this story for a little while while now is that you can actually do what's called olfactory training. It's literally physical therapy for your sense of smell, and ENTs are doing that for COVID-19 patients, and it can be quite helpful. So folks should know that if they're still, suffering from that loss of sense of smell, they can do something about it.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
Yeah, definitely, especially for one of those people. Dr. Azar, thank you so much.
The U.S. military carried out airstrikes against Iran-backed militia groups along the Iraq-Syria border on Sunday. The Pentagon says U.S. fighter jets targeted operational and weapons storage facilities at 2 locations in Syria and 1 in Iraq on the orders of President Biden. Military officials say the strikes were in response to a series of drone attacks on U.S. military personnel in Iraq. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from London with more on this. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. So this is all about the drones. For the last several months, Shia militias, which are based in Iraq, operate in Syria, backed by Iran, have been using drones with increasing sophistication. They've been dive bombing drones with small explosives attached to them. They've been attacking Iraqi bases that house American personnel. Because these drones are quite maneuverable, because they're quite small, they've been able to evade base defenses. Generally, base defenses are set up to stop rocket attacks. And for many years in Iraq, rockets were the primary threat. Now, it is evolving, and these militia groups are using drones. And just a few weeks ago, the Shia militias were parading their drones. Apparently, they got a new arrival from Iran through the streets of Iraq. So we saw this airstrikes overnight. They have been condemned by the militia groups themselves. The militias say that at least 4 of their fighters were killed. They're promising revenge. Iran also condemned the attacks, and the Iraqi government said it does not want its territory to be used to carry out proxy attacks or to settle scores. But it shows that this is still very much an active campaign, and the U.S. is trying to send a message that it will not accept these drone attacks.
I believe, Richard, we have a package on this. So let's take a look at the story that you put together, Richard.
The U.S. military says the building on the right was being used to transfer Iranian weapons to militias in Syria and Iraq until it was reduced to rubble by an American airstrike overnight. Another alleged logistics base, this one crowded with trucks, was also targeted. The Pentagon said 3 locations were struck in Syria and Iraq that were funneling weapons to Shiite militias, including drones. President Biden didn't answer questions about the airstrikes, which the Pentagon said were carried out on his order to protect American forces in the region. Earlier this month, Shiite militias in Iraq paraded what appeared to be their new drones, likely from Iran. The militias have been getting more sophisticated, dive-bombing drones with small explosives into Iraqi bases that house American personnel, evading defenses. The top American general in the Middle East called the drones a significant threat. The militia attacks are part of a long pressure campaign by Iran to get American troops to leave Iraq. The timing of the American airstrikes is also significant and sends a message to Iran's incoming hardline president and potential future supreme leader, Ibrahim Raisi, elected just this month. A message that the U.S. can negotiate with Iran and fight its militias at the same time.
This is the second time that President Biden has ordered attacks, airstrikes against these same Shia militias in Iraq and Syria.
All right, Richard Engel. Richard, thanks so much.
A record heat wave is hitting 25 million people in the Northwest with little relief in sight, and thousands lost power last night. Those high temperatures are forcing many to head to cooling centers, but will today offer any relief?
And with that, let's check on the morning news now. Weather with Bill Karen. Bill, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. And, what happened this weekend in the Northwest, would have been unimaginable before this summer or at any time for anyone that grew up in that region of the country. I mean, what we're experiencing in the Northeast is typical. What's happening in the Northwest is like nothing else that we've seen. It's not even a wow. It's more than a wow. So Seattle today is going to hit 110 degrees. Just to kind of give you some perspective, the hottest it had ever been before this was 103 degrees. So we're breaking an all-time record by 7 degrees. And their period of record goes back to the late 1800s, so about 120 years. So it's not like it just started. So this is crazy. So give you another perspective, Washington, D.C. and New York City all-time record high is 106. This would be like if New York City and D.C. hit 113. It hits 113 degrees in New York City and D.C. People are running around in the streets, and it's one of the biggest news stories you've ever seen. So what's happening in the Northwest is, really just eye-opening. So here's how the numbers are going to play out today. We talked about Seattle, but Seattle's not alone. Portland will break and shatter their all-time record high today, being 114 degrees. That's after 112 yesterday. And those little yellow arrows next to the cities, that tells you how much warmer than normal it is. So it's going to be almost 40 degrees warmer than normal today. Thankfully, it cools off a little bit in the Northwest tomorrow, but we're still very hot from Boise to Lewiston. And then in the Northeast, this is a different type of heat. This is hot, hazy, it's humid. The heat index will feel like about 100 to about 105. The actual temperatures will be in the mid-90s, but it's a very uncomfortable temperatures. And these are heat advisories. This is kind of what you expect a couple times every summer, where guys in the Northwest, this is what we never expect. And, with the mega drought and with climate change, let's just hope this isn't, becoming a new normal for summertime activities in the Northwest. I mean, 110 in Seattle, I never thought I'd say those words.
I mean, Bill, I lived in Seattle for a few years. It was in the upper 80s. People were complaining about the heat there. It was just so unusual to get anything really above that. And again, as you mentioned, no one there has air conditioning. The vast majority of people don't have AC there. So, all right, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.